Okay, so welcome to this talk on Polkadot and Substrate education. Earlier, Gautam did a great job explaining, what Polkadot is, but I'm gonna do. So we have laymen, people out there, like we have developers, we have researchers, and students. So for everyone, I'll have something here about Polkadot that you can take out, So let's talk about, why Polkadot actually started. So first of all, there is a vision for Polkadot project. So I'm from Web3 Foundation. So Web3 Foundation's flagship project is Polkadot. And you'll see this on the Web3 Foundation website. So what we believe in is a decentralized and fair internet where users control their own data, identity, and destiny. So these are few powerful words, right? So right now, the way internet is out there, we have centralized structures that are literally taking full advantage of the data that we create. So this is trying to get the control back to you. And this is the key vision. It's not about cryptocurrencies or all the mainstream thing that you keep hearing about, like Web3. So again, we also believe that the future is multi-chain. So one of the key things that Gavin talks about is ending the chain maximalism. Not a single chain. A single chain should not rule everything, right? So first of all, depending on the application, you have different needs. So we believe Web3 should be open and everything in Web3 should be interoperable. All right, so for the dot price that people are keen about, this is on me. So if you're able to repeat this definition when you're asked, then you have some dots. So I want to put this out there. So this is the proper technical definition of what Polkadot is, and it's unfair to leave it out and simplify things. Okay, so let me put it together. So Polkadot is the first production-grade, fully sharded, heterogeneous multi-chain. So there's no blockchain out there that has implemented heterogeneous sharding, which is we have this famous picture shown almost on every Polkadot related website. So here, this chain is Polkadot, and all these tiny blocks that you see here are blockchains as well, because these blockchains run in parallel to Polkadot. They're called parachains, parallel chains, parachains. So each parachain has its own logic. And each parachain is a shard of Polkadot chain, right? So that's why we say heterogeneous multi-chain. And the beauty of this figure is that it shows how these multiple blockchains are secured by the Polkadot relay chain. And all of them can also talk to each other. And Polkadot secures that communication. So for simple layman out there, so this is the definition for Polkadot. So it's a set of blockchains that work together and talk to each other securely. All right, so one of the top list of features that I want to show here are these 6. So one is the connecting the networks together part. I already showed to you in the earlier figure that all of those blockchains can talk to each other seamlessly. And having these multiple blockchains run in parallel, you're also able to handle a lot of transactions in parallel. We have industry-leading security. So I'm not just making up this word. I will actually back it up with some technical information I'll share with you shortly. And Polkadot derives its security through nominated proof of staking. So we did proof of staking much before other blockchains have realized that that's the way to go about it. So, yep, enabling custom-made platforms to be built. So I'm not just talking about use cases like cryptocurrency or NFTs. You name it, you name an internet application out there, and try to see how that can be built by powering it with blockchain technology. So Polkadot actually has that capability. So if you're thinking of building a Web3 counterpart for Twitter, okay, so what blockchain choice do you choose to power that application? So that's what I'm talking about when I say custom-made platforms. Of course, like I can boast about the on-chain governance like all day. So Polkadot has the most sophisticated governance mechanisms out there. And finally, the entire previous talk was dedicated to the self-upgrades, right? So there's no forkless upgrade. You don't have to hold like conventions, or you don't have to make announcements on your social media or whatever. The upgrades happen on-chain, and they're deployed like seamlessly. All right, so Polkadot connects the network of custom-built blockchains. So these are having a very specific use case. That's why when you go around and take a look at all the projects at the booths, so talk to them. So they are actually blockchains. They're not just dApps deployed on Polkadot, they're actual blockchains. And because I'm the technical education lead, so there'll be some technical content out there, but I'll try my best to keep it like simple. So this is the snapshot I took it this morning. So you see that there are 43 blockchains running on top of Polkadot, right? So Polkadot is this layer 0 blockchain, and then I can say 43 Ethereums running on Polkadot, because each blockchain, the parachain, is capable of executing everything that any layer 1 blockchain out there can do. So think of all those, and then think of all the things that can be built on top of them, right? So right now, with chain maximalism, you have to somehow be stuck with the blockchain that you pick. The gas fees, the demand that goes with it. So you as a developer, if you want predictability, it's hard to find. If you're just stuck with like one particular blockchain. So here you have the option to pick and choose from diversity of blockchains out there. Each blockchain is working really hard to optimize its specific use case. So that's highlighted in red. So let's talk about thing highlighted in blue. So these are Polkadot validators. So Polkadot validators are randomly assigned. They're shuffled, and they're assigned to individual blockchains, these parachains. And you can see that highlighted in green, that every single parachain has its own block number. So parachain is creating blocks. It's sending to the Polkadot validators for validity. Their transactions are being validated and then finalized on the relay chain. And when I say Polkadot, it's not, you can think of it as a blockchain, but it is also a network, right? So it's a network of nodes. We have around 2,000 nodes, spread across the globe. Each one listening to other nodes. It's going to fetch, the transactions. There are a few validators who are creating the blocks and broadcasting it to the rest of the network. And the block time of Polkadot is 6 seconds. All right, so I told you that Polkadot is secure, the industry-leading security that comes with nominated proof of staking. So it's very different from staking on other chains. On other chains, let's say the chain has 1 million tokens. You own probably 10,000 tokens. Your staking weight is basically based on entirely your tokens, right? So in Polkadot, yeah, of course there is a diversity in terms of the number of tokens held by each user. So which validator should be elected? So for that, Polkadot does a great job using proportional justified representation. So it's one of the sophisticated proof of staking algorithms out there. So as you can see, clearly eliminating the validator E is the right choice, right? So people with maximum stake are choosing A, B, C, D. So that's a fair representation. And Polkadot doesn't just stop there. It goes a little further. It also ensures the security of the network is high. So it splits the stake. Like let's say you're a whale and then you have plenty of dot. It actually splits it between the validators in such a way that very diverse set of validators are elected, and the least staked validator always has the highest stake finally. So instead of this setting where validator E is getting like 6 tokens, if you eliminate E, then the least stake validator is having 9 tokens. So that's the highest security level. And so let's forget about this diagram. How do you exert influence on a network? You can bribe the validators, or you can buy a lot of tokens and then you spin up your validators, right? So in this setting, you have to spend more. You have to spend more to get like a single validator on the network. And Polkadot does all this based on your network preferences. Yeah, so now let's talk about education. So now you got a brief glimpse of how the network is working and how it is being secured. But if I didn't tell you, the dots you were going to get today, with the airdrop or whatever, you wouldn't know how to use that to secure the network properly. So for that, we need this staking education initiative. So given some dots, you're able to select up to like 16 validators, and this education initiative is going to tell you which of the 16 validators you should be nominating to. So we have, from Web3 Foundation, we have an education initiative on staking. So this will go live on the Polkadot website /staking. And it just doesn't stop there. Like you, as someone who's like really passionate about delivering a fair internet with Web3, you might be interested in running a validator for Polkadot. Now, Polkadot being like a proof of stake blockchain, the minimum number of dot required to run a validator right now is around 1.8 million dot. But how do you get that? So it has to be nominated by dot holders. So Web3 Foundation runs the 1,000 Validators program. It's almost like an education program for people who want to run validators on Polkadot. So Web3 Foundation stakes its own dot, takes the risk. It stakes on you so that you learn to be like the trustworthy validator for the community, and then you take off with the community nominations. So we do have this program, so if you're interested in, check it out. All right, so talking about the Polkadot's architecture, so I told you that there are these parallel blockchains that are running. So we have parachains, which are being secured by the validators who were elected through this nominated proof of staking. Fine. So if the parachains are being secured by validators, then I told you that these are blockchains, right? So who are producing these blocks? So these blocks are produced by collators. So collators, they just collect the transactions that are happening on the parachain network, package it into the data that Polkadot validators can understand, but they are not participating in any of the consensus. Okay, so it's the Polkadot validators who say, okay, this parachain sent these transactions. It also sent its logic. So I'm going to run the logic against the transactions and decide that particular block is valid. And I want to highlight this part because right now there are many blockchains out there which are like ghost chains, right? So there's nothing happening on the blockchain, empty blocks, but they all get added to the blockchain. Anything that goes into the blockchain has to stay forever, right? So it's redundantly copied across different nodes. It's such a waste of resources and time. So Polkadot solves it through the parathread paradigm. So parathreads are so let's say there's a blockchain like land sales. Like in India, land papers are a bit of an issue, right? So if you put that on blockchain, you can, every day, at the end of the day, you can collect them and then make them into a block and then sort of send it to any sort of blockchain out there. Like, I'm just giving the Polkadot example here. But currently, there's no such, use case for blockchains yet. So Polkadot is actually thinking forward. So we have parathreads that let you add the blocks on demand. So whenever you need to add the block, you're able to add the block to your blockchain. Yep, so just putting it together, so collators and validators, they establish connections. They are assigned with a specific group of validators. They validate the parachain's logic, and then include that block in the relay chain. Okay, so I'll spend a very little time here. So I'm showing a little bit of hashing. So for those of you who are familiar with hashing, you'd appreciate it. For those of you who are not familiar with hashing, I'll do my best to explain what's going on here. So a parachain blockchain, it has a state. So everything that happens in the parachain is put in this sort of data structure, where so there's balance, there's like democracy or whatever. So every state has like a fingerprint, which is like a hash. So they are put together and then built into this Merkle tree. So whenever a change happens in the parachain, the change is reflected in those fingerprints, and the rest of them remain the same. So that data need not be sent to the relay chain. And the relay chain actually looks at those state transitions and then validates those and then includes that as a certificate in the main blockchain. And now, why am I telling all this? So the underlying thing that I want you to take away from this is a parachain is almost like a state in a country. So what the state does is it collects all the events that have happened within the state. It goes to the federal government. It tells, okay, so these are my state rules. These are the events that have happened. I want you to check, based on the rules, whether the events actually complied with those rules. And if so, just give me a certificate that, today everybody, acted according to the law or whatever. So that's exactly what Polkadot is doing. It's collecting the state changes as well as the state transition function. It gives both of them to Polkadot. Parachains give it to Polkadot, and Polkadot sort of, does that for you. And to do all this, like, creating that parachain, you use Substrate. Substrate is the blockchain building framework. The beauty of Substrate is that all of the blockchains built using Substrate, they've been running successfully for the past few years. So all of those are like battle tested. So today, if you go to Substrate GitHub repository, download it, you have access to a running blockchain network. Like Gautam mentioned earlier, this is a famous diagram. It showed up here as well. So let's say your blockchain needs currency. You want to issue tokens on your blockchain. Substrate gives you like a library, like balances palette. You just import it. So it's just one line of code. So you import that palette, and then all of a sudden, you're able to mint as many tokens as you want on your blockchain. You want like democracy on your blockchain, bring a palette, and the users of your blockchain now have like democracy. So it gives you that level of like flexibility when you're building like blockchains. And how is all of this possible? So it's possible because blockchain at the end of the day is run on nodes. So Substrate node looks like this. So lib peer-to-peer protocol takes care of the network connection. So let's say you created a blockchain network by running a node on your computer. You gave the binary to your friend to run the same node. How do these two discover each other and talk to each other? It's through the lib peer-to-peer protocol. And how do they come to agreement, like the consensus? So Substrate comes with like grandpa finality built in. You can also swap it with your own consensus model if you want to. And finally, the WebAssembly. WASM blob is what enables like forkless upgrades. You heard about it in the previous presentation. So all the state transition function of the blockchain is within that runtime. Okay, great. So think of all of the things you have seen so far, and think of educators like me. So how are we supposed to educate people on all these concepts, right? So that's where if you choose to build on like Polkadot or Substrate, so we have a program for you. It's called Substrate Builders Program. It gives you access to the experts from like the developer community. So that way you get like a head start with your project. And then we have a dedicated like Stack Exchange space. So this is invaluable if you're like a developer. So most of the developers hang out on this website. So they keep looking for new questions, and then they try to be actively like answer them. And we are like one of the successful communities that were able to secure this Stack Exchange space. And we also have like plenty of hackathons. So if you're interested, you can take part in them. It's a good way to get a sense of like how it is to develop on Polkadot. So currently we have Uncode hackathon going on, April 11th. Try to take a look at it. It's a global like virtual conference. And for hackers, like we have prepared something called as Hacker's Guide to the Polkadot Galaxy. So if you're familiar with Douglas Adams' like work, it's in the similar line. So we have enough resources for you to get started with like Polkadot and development. And I boasted earlier that Polkadot has one of the sophisticated governance systems, and this is the reason for that. So the state transition function of Polkadot as well as parachains is the WebAssembly blob. So what you can do is make changes to it and then swap it. It's almost like swapping the brains of the blockchain. So that you're able to do through governance. So what Polkadot people do is they create the new code, they create the wasm blob, they upload it to the chain, and then they say, okay, vote on it. Do you want to swap the brains of the blockchain or not? So if the answer is yes, then I'll show that mechanism here. So the way it works is typical like blockchains out there, they undergo like hard fork whenever they upgrade. So let's say the upgrade happened here. The nodes that upgraded go with one chain, and the ones they don't, they go with the other chain. So in Polkadot, it's not possible because the code itself is part of the block. So every single block has the brain, the state transition function as well. So at block 104, when the upgrade happens, the next block is produced based on the upgraded code. So every validator in the network automatically upgrades and sort of produces the new block based on the upgraded code. And that's the beauty of the forkless upgrade that Gautam was talking about previously. And that's what makes the code is law. It takes it to the meta level, right? So Polkadot is a meta protocol because the code can update itself. And we also have something unique in the ecosystem, which is called a Kusama. It's a canary network. It helps you stay on top of this rapidly evolving like blockchain ecosystem. So any changes we do, we first put them on Kusama. And Kusama is not a test network. It's a canary network. It has some economic value. Try to see how things work in the real world, in the adversarial world. Okay, so I said sophisticated on-chain governance, and this slide sort of delivers that, right? So there's so much going on here. So we have different tracks. Like if someone has to get 5 dots for contributing to, like, let's say, a video or a wiki article, they shouldn't take up like the democracy queue, which requires the network to upgrade, these two things have like two different priorities. So Polkadot will manage it through this OpenGov like tracks. So if, for instance, you have tips, like small tips here, treasury spending as a separate track, and then network-related operations in a different track, and so on and so forth. So that, as well as we have support and approval curves. So this is to ensure that the decision is not flipped in the last few minutes. So people can say yes till the end and then sort of snipe the decision at the end. So that's not possible with the latest curves that we're implementing. So the decision has to run a marathon, like for several hours. It has to be either yes or no. Only then the referendum is sort of passing. So lots of interesting stuff happening with respect to governance. So if you get free dots today, please use it for governance as well. It's one of the main utilities of the token. And you'll be surprised, Polkadot is like a fully functional DAO, if you can call it that way. Today's event is being sponsored by Polkadot's treasury. People actually put a proposal on chain. It got approved through community. That dot is, it has eventually materialized into this particular event. And what else? The font that you see on the slide, that is funded by Polkadot Treasury. Right there. And then most of the icons that you saw in today's presentation, that iconography is also funded by Polkadot Treasury. And you might wonder, like, where can you find people, who's interested in Polkadot? Where do they hang out? Where do they talk? So we have like a Polkadot forum. So you can talk to the developers or ecosystem people right there. So check it out. And yeah, so in the interest of time, I'm just going to go a little bit fast. What's happening here? So blockchain interoperability is a real use case. So many teams have tried to do this. There have been a lot of hacking, attacks. Last year, we kept hearing about millions of dollars being lost, right, with the interoperability aspect. So Polkadot tries to solve it like ground up. So we have different parachains that are upgrading their logic, like, frequently. How do they talk to each other efficiently? So Polkadot came up with the answer XCM. So XCM is like a cross-consensus messaging format. It not only works with parachains, it also works with other blockchains like Ethereum and Bitcoin. So it's possible to talk to other blockchains like in a trustless manner. So XCM is actually live on Polkadot. So out of like the 43 parachains that are live, 21 are already like using that feature to transfer like assets and messages between each other. So if you are interested to actually learn about this technology, which is cutting edge, people haven't come up with a solution like that. Nobody successfully created like a cross-chain solution that is trustless and secure. So we're talking about cutting edge technology here. So if you want to stay on top of it and be part of it, try to apply to Polkadot Blockchain Academy. That's where you'll get to meet a lot of developers who are like working day in and day out to improve these protocols. And this is happening in UC Berkeley. So if you have a US visa, visitor visa, so this initiative is free. So you just have to qualify for it, and then you can attend that. And on top of it, the Treasury is also funding, I think this one will fund around 25 attendees for Polkadot Blockchain Academy, which includes like the flying costs or like living costs or whatever. So that's how powerful like this decentralized ecosystem is, right? So Polkadot is funding developers to make it better itself. It's like a self-perpetuating machine in a way. So that bounty is approved, so that program will be live soon. We also have like online education. We believe that this education should scale further. So Web3 Foundation has put together like a couple of courses. There are more courses coming in on Rust and Substrate education as well. So Rust and Substrate, if you just want to like learn about them, how things work, we plan to put them on edX platform by the end of summer. And inspired from, I mean, you saw that I have a doctorate, right? So I have PhD in computer science, artificial intelligence especially. So when I was like a teaching professor at University of Vermont, so I took this course bundle and then used it to teach my students. So drawing inspiration from that, I want to create like a course bundle for universities so that people get to know about Rust, Substrate, and like Polkadot. There's also Wiki, and then Wiki has like plenty of contributors, 240 right there, and then that red shiny face is me. So I'm one of the prime contributors of Polkadot Wiki as well. And yeah, so we also put a lot of booths, and last week I was in South by Southwest in Austin, and even this booth is funded by Polkadot Treasury. So you see how things are shaping up in this like decentralized ecosystem. And the last thing, like don't get scammed. Even today, watch out for scammy people out there. So to ensure that nobody falls for scams, we also have like anti-scam initiative, and this is very unique to Polkadot ecosystem. So this is being funded by Polkadot Treasury as well. And like I mentioned, my time is up, but I'm just going to finish with this. It's not just about NFTs. It's not just about cryptocurrency. We're talking about all the spectrum of applications, right? So that span real-world use cases. The projects in the booths out there, they're also going to show you many different facets of what Polkadot is actually capable of delivering. Web3 Foundation gives like grants to so many use cases out there. All of these projects are shaping up, and you'll see them coming mainstream in the next 2-3 years. Yeah, just to reiterate, like this is where you can get like financial assistance if you have like a really good idea. Web3 Foundation is happy to provide like grants for you, and then the Treasury is happy to give you grants. Plenty of courses on the way for you to get like educated. And if you have some ideas on how to make education better, feel free to chat with me. I'll be here today and tomorrow. And yeah, thank you very much for your time listening to the Education Initiative.